March 12, 1996.
It's not that the others have given up.
40 to 50% of Republicans are saying, we don't want this to end. We want you to go on. We want the fight to continue.
But Bob Dole has already set his sights on the next phase of the campaign.
We're going to move this country forward, give us a chance, get Bill Clinton out of the way, and we'll get the job done starting in 1996.
He's going to keep campaigning against Clinton now. I mean, that's where he's going to step it up.
I think every time the president does something, the first comment everybody will want will be Bob Dole's.
Tonight, as the Republican dust begins to settle, the presidential campaign begins in earnest.
This is an ABC News Nightline special. The 96 vote. Reporting from Washington, Ted Koppel.
Pat Buchanan arouses passion but has no numbers. Bob Dole has the numbers but arouses little passion. Steve Forbes has generated neither passion nor numbers. And so what promised for a while to be one of the most surprising and exciting primary seasons in years has, on this Super Tuesday, found Republicans settling on the sensible but unemotional conclusion that Bob Dole is destined to be their nominee. In the final analysis, it appears that few Republican voters thought that either Forbes or Buchanan could beat Bill Clinton in November. There were 362 delegates at stake today, spread across 7 states. ABC News Tonight projects that Bob Dole will win all of those states, although he will not win all of the delegates. As of this hour, it is clear that Senator Dole has won the support of more than 345 of those delegates and will likely win some of the remaining ones. Buchanan has won a handful of delegates, Forbes, not even that many. Meanwhile, all but unnoticed on the Democratic side, 745 delegates were selected in 8 states today. ABC News now estimates that President Clinton will have the 2,142 delegates needed for his party's nomination, which may explain why, as Jeff Greenfield now reports, Mr. Clinton is already looking beyond Chicago and the Democratic convention toward the general election in November.
Bob Dole, deceiving voters.
We have here the revolt of the overprivileged.
You've probably had it up to here with all these campaign pictures, so here's a different kind of campaign picture. Last Saturday, President Clinton and Vice President Gore visited a high school in Concord, California, to help wire classrooms for the computer age. It was an event filled with meanings as subtle and as blatant as the colors of the wires.
They claim the red, white, and blue is a coincidence.
Item. It was Clinton's 23rd visit to California since his inauguration. One more trip than Ronald Reagan had made at this point in his first term. And Reagan lived it. There are 54 good reasons for these trips. That's how many electoral votes California has. Item. The school visit showed 2 young, energetic men engaged in vigorous physical activity. In contrast to, say, a 72-year-old Senate Majority Leader. Item. The visit was about preparing America's children for the future. In contrast to, say, the last major political figure with roots in World War II. Those are some of the messages you'll be seeing and hearing over the next 5 months from a president whose political possibilities and dangers could hardly have been imagined little more than a year ago.
I know all the arguments.
The Bill Clinton who faced the new Republican Congress in January 1995 was a badly damaged president, sure to face a primary challenge from within his own Democratic Party. The president today stands as the first Democrat since Roosevelt not to be challenged for renomination, sparing him heavy financial and political costs.
You have a tendency to have to articulate yourself more to the left or more to the right than the country is in order to take care of your own party's interests. And so if you don't have to do that, if you can run just for the general and let the Republicans beat up on themselves, you're in a great position.
With his liberal base secure, Clinton has moved to the center to cut off Republican attacks on values.
Our public schools should be able to require their students to wear school uniforms.
He's at a school that has adopted uniforms. He's calling top entertainment executives to the White House, pushing them to adopt a rating system, signing a law requiring so-called V-chips in television sets, to let parents block out objectionable programs.
We're going to see it next on crime. Bill Clinton and police chiefs are going to be spending a lot of time with each other over the next few weeks.
We can make real welfare reform a reality in the lives of the American people.
And then there are the ads. With some $25 million in primary funds to spend and no primary opponent on the ballot, the Democrats are airing spots in key states, positioning President Clinton for November on issues ranging from welfare to domestic violence.
Every year in America, 1 million women are victims of domestic abuse. It is a violation of our nation's values.
In a campaign where they know that Mr. Clinton will be attacked on character, these ads are telling viewers to judge the president's character on the fights he's made.
I think you tell the story not just of what the president has done, but you try to set the table in terms of the issues voters are going to face in the fall.
But Mr. Clinton faces a highly unusual effort to stay here because of what the Republicans will soon be doing here. We've never seen anything like it in American politics before. A party's presidential nominee who also happens to be majority leader of the United States Senate. What does that mean? Well, for one thing, it means that for the next 5 months at least, this will be ground zero for Campaign 96.
I'm a doer, I'm not a talker.
With his nomination all but assured, Senator Dole will come home to the United States Senate, where he has 5 months before his official nomination to shape a legislative agenda that will also be his campaign agenda.
He gets to be the spokesman on almost any issue that comes up. While the president has his big bully pulpit, I guess I would say Senator Dole has, another bully pulpit.
On issues from welfare reform to immigration to the balanced budget, Republicans believe that Dole can push through the Congress bills that the president will either have to sign or be forced to veto.
There's already a big confrontation going between the president and the Congress in that most things we want to do, he doesn't want to let us do.
But will it work? The latest ABC News poll shows high disapproval ratings for the Congress. And if more militant House Republicans push Dole too hard, Mr. Clinton could gain the same public relations advantage from vetoes that he gained last fall. Not to worry, says one longtime Republican operative.
One thing you ought not to forget about Newt Gingrich is that he is first and foremost a historian. And he's perfectly willing to go along with whatever Bob Dole wants, knowing that next year he could, they could get much more of their program than they possibly could get under Clinton.
Besides, says Deaver, the Senate is an arena where Dole can play to his strength.
Dole's great strength in the public's mind is a guy who's able to bring parties together to get the job done. So his best stage, if you will, is here in Washington, D.C.
For months, for years actually, the political press has been pawing the ground, getting ready to race across the country to cover the battle for the nomination. And now, after a series of drive-by primaries, it turns out that if you're looking for the decisive political battleground, there's no place like home. I'm Jeff Greenfield for Nightline in Washington.
When we come back, two Republicans with different advice for Bob Dole.
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by Plymouth.
Plymouth has new ways to shop for a car. Hop on the internet at home or visit Plymouth Place, our interactive computer at your local mall, where you can create your own customized Plymouth Neon, Voyager, or Breeze. Take a test drive on the Information Superhighway, where you'll discover that Plymouth is fun, affordable, and a whole new way to shop for a car. Some people are doing more business than ever on Fridays.
The Denver deal doable, Donnie?
Good. Help your business do more business with Sprint's amazing offer. For 1 full year, Fridays are free.
No, I'll call you back. It's Friday.
Every long-distance call you make on Fridays is free. The rest of the week, you get Sprint's great low-flat rate.
Okay, so I'll call you next Friday.
Call now. 1-800-598-5000 for free Fridays at work. Only from Sprint Business.
Look what's hiding beneath the uniform of America's honor guard, neo-Nazis. Want to know what's really going on? Primetime Gets It Done, Wednesday.
Start your day the fun way with AM Northwest.
We're trying to get ourselves hooked up to To control Central.
The V chip stands, V is for violence, is that why?
V is for violence, but it also, the S chip, and then of course there's the W chip that's coming up for weather.
Art Skipper and the cantaloupe.
Oh! More time, Art. He hit the cantaloupe.
Catch the Spirit of AM Northwest weekdays at 9 on KATU, the Spirit of the Northwest.
At Honda, we don't think a car that's affordable and exceptional is too much to ask for. After all, the Accord has carved out a nice niche being exactly that. And now with 3.9% APR financing for up to 48 months, its affordability is more clear-cut than ever. In fact, it's an offer so solid, it's carved in stone. Get 3.9% APR financing for 48 months on any Accord.
And we ask every Buchanan voter everywhere in America to join the team to get the right kind of president, to appoint the right kind of judges, so our children can be safe and our streets can be safe. So come home to your team, Buchanan voters everywhere in America.
That was Newt Gingrich tonight, joining us live from our Washington bureau now. Two former chiefs of staff to the last two Republican vice presidents, Craig Fuller, who served Vice President George Bush, and William Kristol, who headed Vice President Dan Quayle's staff. Let me begin with you, Craig Fuller. 4 years ago, you were running the show at the Republican convention, and I guess it was your decision to give Pat Buchanan prime time, and a lot of that prime time, and he gave one stem winder of a speech that some observers feel may have cost your boss the job.
Well, it was a shared decision with the campaign leadership. We felt Pat Buchanan had an important contribution to make at the convention. He did what he said he'd do. He endorsed George Bush, and he gave a speech that electrified the convention. It had some carryover effect. That's still being debated, but he did what he said he'd do at that convention.
All right, you've just heard Newt Gingrich this evening calling on Buchanan's followers to come in, join the parties, support Dole. How do you do that? How do you get them in?
Well, the good news, Ted, for Republicans is that Bob Dole has 5 months to work on this process, and I think you saw the beginning of it tonight. It doesn't have to occur in a week. It doesn't have to occur in 2 or 3 weeks. This process will stretch out, but I think when we get to San Diego, and particularly when we leave San Diego, Republicans will be united behind Bob Dole.
Well, okay. I'll come back to you and press you a little harder on that. Bill, I'm going to leave it to you to come up with some of the specifics now. How do you do that?
Well, I don't know. I actually think Bob Dole might want to take on Pat Buchanan a little bit. Buchanan's really challenged mainstream Republicanism, the Reagan tradition in foreign policy and economic policy. I think Bob Dole needs to defend the Reagan Republican tradition against Pat Buchanan, and I think in doing so, he could show leadership and a certain strength of character that would be impressive to an awful lot of Americans.
It is no secret, in this city at least, that you have favored the notion, if indeed you do not still favor it, of General Colin Powell being selected as vice presidential nominee. That would do what as far as the Buchanan supporters are concerned?
Well, it would infuriate Pat Buchanan. I'm not sure how many of his supporters would be lost. There are arguments for and against Powell as VP, and obviously the first thing that has to be found out, and should be found out soon by Bob Dole, I think, is Colin Powell willing to accept the vice presidential nomination? You don't want 3 months of speculation, and at the end, Powell says, I won't take it, and Dole looks weak and scorned by Colin Powell. If Powell's willing to take it, I think it is probably worth the gamble, because I don't myself see how a conventional, cautious campaign gets Dole the presidency. I really think he's at a weak position now. Clinton's had a good few months. Dole, I think otherwise you're going to have a conventional campaign ending up in a respectable loss. And the case for Powell is that it really kicks over the table and really changes the character of the race.
Craig, conventional and cautious are two adjectives that I might well have used to describe Bob Dole.
Well, I think that's maybe true. I'll tell you, though, I think Bob Dole has to win this as the candidate on top of the ticket. I don't think a vice president wins presidential elections. I, for one, think Bob Dole ought to wait on this decision and see where the voters are when he gets closer to August. I see no reason to rush. And one very important factor here is we don't have, at this point, and I don't believe we will have Ross Perot in this race. This is going to be a race between two people, Bob Dole and Bill Clinton. And I think voters should take their time to assess each of them, but it's going to be Bob Dole's race to win.
We already know, though, don't we, that Ross Perot is going to have a convention in September. Now, I assume they're going to nominate someone at that convention. Can you think of anyone else that a Perot convention would nominate?
Well, I'm not sure that he's going to make the kind of run that he did last time around. I don't think that's in his interest or in the country's interest. I just don't see him having any kind of support base like he did before. We'll have to wait and see.
Bill, talk for a moment about something that Jeff Greenfield referred to earlier, namely this historic spectacle that we have now of the Senate Majority Leader running for President of the United States at the same time that he is Senate Majority Leader. Somehow, perhaps, that role better suits Bob Dole than the one of campaigner, doesn't it?
Well, on the one hand, it does. He loves the Senate. He's a good majority leader. On the other hand, the American people, as we saw in the ABC poll, don't like Congress. And I'm really not sure it's a very good idea for Bob Dole to go back and live in the Congress for the next 2 or 3 months. Bill Clinton's not the most popular president in our history, but his approval rating's a heck of a lot higher than that of the Republican Congress. Again, I think the bold strategy here would be for Dole to say, okay, I've got the presidential nomination. I'm no longer going to be Senate Majority Leader. I'm not a legislative leader anymore. I now want to be the executive leader of this country, and I'm going to give a few major speeches and lay out an agenda that contrasts with Bill Clinton. I'm not going to worry about trying to get 60 votes to break a filibuster on welfare reform or cobble together the coalition on regulatory reform. So I can see the attraction of coming back to be Majority Leader, but I'm not sure it's a wise move for Bob Dole.
Craig?
I think he probably stays Majority Leader, but I do believe that Bill is right. I do not think staying in Washington and on Capitol Hill is the place where Bob Dole is going to win this race. One of Bob Dole's great strengths and one of the Republican Party's great strengths are found in our governors, and I frankly hope he spends time over the next 5 months out in some of those states with Republican governors talking about reforms that really work.
Craig Fuller, Bill Kristol, thank you both very much. When we come back, ABC's armchair analysts, with or without their armchairs, Jeff Greenfield returns, along with Cokie Roberts and Hal Bruno.
Introducing the new Plymouth Grand Voyager. It's filled with clever ideas. Now there's a sliding door on this side and this side. 27% more room for you and all your stuff. And seats that roll out of the way. A gazillion cup holders that hold almost anything. Plus more safety and greater visibility. You can carry more and do more. The new Plymouth Grand Voyager. It simply slides, folds, protects, unfolds, rolls, and drives better.
Farm life is the only life Valerie Shaw could ever imagine. But the animals in hay aggravated her asthma, causing dangerous lung infections that almost forced her off the family farm. With proper care and medicine we developed at Pfizer, Valerie won't have to leave. The animals, the land, or her heritage. Pfizer, we're part of the cure.
Tomorrow, a battle plan for the war on terrorism. Plus, should your computer do your tax return in Taxes Made Easy?
That's tomorrow
on Good Morning America.
The results of Super Tuesday and its effects on the presidential race tomorrow on Channel 2 News This Morning.
Channel 2 News is the spirit of the Northwest.
This is the new TV guide. Just open it up and boom, you're there. Inside the guide to kids TV. From preschool to prime time, our editors take a look at the best shows for kids. A must read for all parents. When you want to be there, get inside TV Guide.
When a person is sick, they visit a doctor. When a forest is sick, who does it turn to? Selective harvesting of timber by helicopter can remove unhealthy trees as easily as a dentist removes a tooth. Once the dead and infected timber is gone, the remaining trees thrive on the additional resources. Forest health and adequate timber supplies are issues that concern us all. Columbia Helicopters, providing sound forest management for over 20 years.
Paul Hogan's on a test drive right now, so he asked me to tell you about Subaru all-wheel drive days, where you can get, how would Paul say it, a ripper deal on any 96 all-wheel drive Subaru, like the Legacy sedan. the Impreza Coupe, or the amazing Outback. Something you'd like to add, Paul?
Check out the full line of all-wheel drive cars from Subaru, including my Outback.
Subaru all-wheel drive days end March 31st. Right, Paul? Paul? Anybody seen Paul?
Obviously, the results tonight are a disappointment. And quite obviously, too, in the upcoming primaries next week, we must make a major breakthrough in one of those Midwest industrial states. If not, then this campaign will have to come to a conclusion.
Joining us now live from our Washington bureau, our crack political team, ABC's Jeff Greenfield, Cokie Roberts, Hal Bruno. Hal, that's the first time that Mr. Forbes has come out and publicly suggested that he actually might step down.
Yeah, I think political reality is dawning, Ted. I think tomorrow when they have their meeting and they look ahead at those 4 Midwestern states, Wisconsin, Illinois, Ohio, and Michigan, they're going to find that there isn't any place to make the breakthrough. As a matter of fact, with what he's winning tonight, in all probability, Senator Dole will have the 996 delegates he needs to wrap up the nomination when they finish next Tuesday. Very good possibility of that.
Before we set aside the subject of Steve Forbes, has more money ever been spent for less result in terms of delegates?
Well, he comes close to John Connolly. He spent $11 million and got 1 delegate. So I think Forbes is on that kind of a track. In fact, at this point, the only thing between Dole and the nomination is Forbes' money in Buchanan's mouth.
What Cokie, what are some of the landmines that still lie ahead here? Lord knows we have been surprised sufficiently over this relatively short political season.
The landmines for Bob Dole in the nominating process?
Well, are there any?
I don't think so. I think that the nomination is now his. But there are landmines beyond that that the results of each one of these primaries really points away to. First of all, one of the interesting things that's happened in no state that's held a primary so far has the majority of voters been female. Now, in the general election, the majority of voters is always female. There are more of us. And the fact that women have not shown up to vote in Republican primaries, I think is a problem for Bob Dole, because he's going to have to win that vote if he hopes to win in November, particularly independent women.
So we're talking about another gender gap.
We're talking about another gender gap. The other thing is that he's lost independent votes by 2 to 1 in many cases, split between Buchanan and Forbes, and he's lost the Perot vote. So he's got to, aside from worrying about what he does about Pat Buchanan, he's got to do this reaching out to the middle that will win the election for him.
Jeff, take us ahead to San Diego for a moment. How exciting a convention is that going to be? And what I mean by that, obviously, is how much mischief can Pat Buchanan still create at the convention?
The mischief can come in 2 forms. I mean, if he were to get somehow a lot more delegates, a couple of hundred, then there's enough there that if he wants to fight on the platform, if he wants to fight on credentials, if he wants to insist on prime time, he has some muscle behind him. I also think, and perhaps this is just for political junkie types, I don't know, but I find it already interesting to try to figure out how Dole goes to that convention and does what every candidate for president must do, which is to get on that rostrum and give an acceptance speech, a coherent, lengthy, written, formal presentation of who he is and what he stands for. I mean, you know, I was asking one Republican operative, how does this guy give a 45-minute speech? And he stopped and he thought and he said, well, he could give a good 15 or 20-minute speech.
But, you know, people said the same thing about George Bush, and he gave a very fine acceptance speech at the 1988 convention. I think that kind of thing is much easier to control. I think Bob Dole's bigger problem right now is the one that Jeff raised in his piece about being majority leader of the Senate. And one of the questions we asked today in the exit polls that we haven't asked in the earlier primaries was a question about trust in government and how much you trusted the government. All of the time, some of the time, never. And the more people trusted government, the more they liked Bob Dole. So he can't separate himself. He is the Washington establishment. He is government. He can't go out and pretend to be a governor of a state. He is the majority leader of the Senate. So his challenge is to try to make the Senate work and to make Congress work for the next few months and produce a welfare bill and a health care bill and all of that. And I think that started today. The Senate put some education money back in a bill to try to get a budget passed, and that's going to be an interesting thing to watch Dole doing.
Go ahead, Hal.
He's at his best when he's playing the role of Majority Leader of the Senate. He is a man of the Congress, and that's where he really shines. You know, Pat Buchanan already has won, though, one of the major battles, abortion. It's absolutely certain that there is going to be a strong anti-abortion plank in the Republican platform. That battle, in effect, is really over.
One more point about Perot. If the president and the Congress appear to be at each other's throats, if it's all partisan, that gives Perot, if he wants it, a rationale to run. Now, if you got that much money, maybe you don't need a rationale. But if it looks like business as usual, of course, if that should happen, if Mr. Perot would step into the race with his money, even if he got half of what he got last time, that all inures this time probably to the benefit of the president. That suggests that if that it's an interesting kind of political game for the president. He could be in a position where he resists the Republican Congress. He gives Perot a rationale to come in and stop this nonsense and gridlock, or however Perot would put it, and that takes votes away from Bob Dole.
Hal, we've got less than half a minute left, so let me give you a chance to be wrong by handicapping the vice presidential sweepstakes.
Better him than us.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Ted. The answer is, I don't know. You hear the three governors of the Midwest, Thompson of Wisconsin, Engler of Michigan, Voinovich of Ohio. You hear wishful thinking about Colin Powell, of course, and Christy Todd Whitman. Her name is still being mentioned if he wants to do something bold and daring. I don't know who his choice is going to be.
All right. And on that note of candor, let me thank all three of you, Hal Bruno, Cokie Roberts, Jeff Greenfield. I'll be back in a moment.
Some people are doing more business than ever on Fridays.
The Denver deal doable, Donnie?
Good. Help your business do more business with Sprint's amazing offer. For 1 full year, Fridays are free.
No, I'll call you back. It's Friday.
Every long-distance call you make on Fridays is free. The rest of the week, you get Sprint's great low-flat rate.
Okay, so I'll call you next Friday.
Call now. 1-800-598-5000 for free Fridays at work. Only from Sprint Business.
The new Plymouth Voyager was named Automobile Magazine's All-Star Minivan for 1996. Car and Driver ranked it in their 10 best automobiles of 1996. And not only does it surpass other minivans on the road, but with a 3-liter, 150 horsepower V6 engine, it has 36 times the cargo space of a Porsche 911 for about a third of the price.
I don't know how he's pulling this off. Our businesses are grossing about the same, and we're both looking at the same margins. So just when I think we're on an even playing field, he turns around and raises enough capital to develop an entirely new hull design. Who's he working with? What's he have that we don't have?
Payne Weber. Invest with more intelligence.
First, Goodyear revolutionized wet traction design with AquaTread. Now, Goodyear introduces the only tire with a lifetime tread life warranty, the new all-season InfiniTread. Its tread is guaranteed for as long as you own your car. Call 1-800-GOODYEAR.
How does turkey chili sound? You're talking about Hormel turkey chili, right? Well, how does it taste? You like turkey? You like chili? You like Hormel turkey chili!
Nothing beats a bowl of Hormel chili, no matter which Hormel chili it is.
Many success